Hi, everybody. Welcome to Woodlawn and Pope Leahy House's series, Makers and Creators. We're still talking to you from home, and I'm really, really excited today to have Richard Sager with us. He embroiders one of my favorite fabrics, toile, and many other things at this point, and has been involved at Woodlawn for a couple of years now. You'll hear more about that as we go along, but we are thrilled to have Richard with us today talking about his work. So welcome.
Hello. Nice to be here.
We're very glad to have you. So,
okay.
So I was trying to remember when I actually first discovered you, and I somehow found you along the way because you were working with my favorite fabric, which is English and French toile. So I think that Woodlawn is not unique in that it has toile as part of its sort of decorative space. And I think I was sort of looking around for people who were working with toile. Suddenly I found you, and I realized, I think you used the expression that you were creating interference with the fabric, and something I read about you, which I loved. And so tell us a little bit about, you started in design, and now you've become this incredible embroiderer. And tell me what made you fall in love with toile.
I don't know that I actually fell in love with toile out of the gate. I had been working as an art director at an ad agency in New York City, and I was laid off when the dot-com bubble burst. And I was in North Beach in San Francisco with a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about our mutual love of textiles. And she suggested that we start a company together, a little design firm. And we came up with a name, which was Historically Inaccurate Decorative Arts. And the concept originally was to show 10 different styles of cushions that looked like they had been designed by 10 different people. And one of the lines was toile and tats, which toile was undergoing another resurgence of its popularity. And when I was waking from sleep one morning, I just saw in my mind very clearly a very traditional Anglo toile, but with the embroidered designs of Maori warriors on their faces. And I thought, oh, that's it. That's perfect. That's a great idea for a cushion for the line. Once I went down to the garment district in New York City and went shopping for toile, I found out that most of the prints were too small to actually accommodate embroidered tattoos easily. So I just amended the concept to any sort of embellishment on the toile. And pretty much a year later, we debuted at the gift show at the Javits Center in New York City. And right out of the gate, the embroidered toile got a lot of attention in the press and in the design world.
I think you know this about me, because I told you right away when I was trying to get you to be interested in us, was that I had lived in a toile room as a child.
Yes.
Started scribbling on the wallpaper, much to my parents.
But you know, that's part of the whole concept of what I do. It's like toile to me is almost like a proto coloring book that's just
right. Exactly.
Yes.
I loved that you said that, and I think I loved it most because at the time when I was trying to work out how to interpret some of the spaces at Woodlawn a little differently, I thought of the toile room myself as a bit of a storytelling space. The toile in its day was the news, the people were trying to depict the top news stories of the day in a pictorial way. And when I'm touring people around the site, I often refer to the toile as sort of what a t-shirt would be today.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, and so I saw that you said that you thought of it as a coloring book. So tell us a little bit about how you feel about toile as a storyteller.
Well, my relationship to the pattern has completely changed over the years because obviously I've educated myself. I've scoured the market looking for different prints to embellish. I like to do the same prints, but only up to a certain point, and then it's time to move on to something else. So, like they're fascinating. What some of the prints, there was a fabric at the Metropolitan a few years ago that was a traditional toile print depicting the slave trade that was completely horrific. And I wouldn't dream of embellishing that in a million years, but just to think that someone would think that that was interesting or acceptable to use as a decorative fabric really shocked me. And but then if you think about the whole history of chinoiserie and chinoiserie toile, it's not very different. It's taking the mystery of the other and just like slapping it on the walls for your enjoyment. And there's something, I think attitudes are changing, and that's where I come in. I try to sort of imbue a message into the print, usually sometimes with humor as much as I can. I also don't like to be too pedantic with the messages, the messaging going into the work, and it just keeps evolving. And what I love about it is that my work is able to change with the times we're living in much the same way that the print itself has evolved over time.
When I did finally find you, and I plucked up courage first to ask my collections director if it was okay that I sent you a piece of the reproduction. I want to make that very clear. It's a reproduction toile.
Yeah, I won't work on traditional old fabric just because it's too much. There are so many beautiful ones in the world. There's no need to deface something that's hundreds of years old. Yeah. Anyway,
we took a piece of what was the reproduction toile at Woodlawn, which for many, many years had actually been visitors had been told that it was a different toile, a much more traditional toile that appears at Mount Vernon and many other historic homes. Trying to find this piece for you that we could work on and that I would send you, that you agreed to work on for us, that we discovered in all of that, which was a fascinating rabbit hole, actually a different toile, and that this toile is based on the story of the Declaration of Independence. And I think we sent it to you. It was very dirty when we sent it to you. And then from there, you brought us back a beautiful piece called This Too Shall Pass.
Thank you.
The title. Tell us a little bit about, why you did it, why you embroidered it the way that you did, and what it meant to you to embroider that particular story and so on.
So basically the original print is a celebration of the great General George Washington, and it's just completely full of symbolism of justice and righteousness and the power of a brand new country, and enthusiasm. And I sort of I just look to the times that we're living in now and how many of those, if not all of those ideals have been compromised and perverted. And I wanted to address that through embroidery. So George Washington is blindfolded, the figure of justice is blindfolded. The elder statesmen who are depicted in coins and medallions throughout the print, I turned into clowns, and it's very subtle also. It's done. It was the first. I think it's the first time I've ever done a truly monochromatic palette for the print. So you have to really get in there and look to see what's being depicted. And I love the piece, and I was so flattered and honored when you decided that you wanted to bring it into the collection of the house. Thank you.
I don't think we could have let it go once it was there, to be honest.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So we're really glad that we have it there too. We couldn't really let it go when the time came. and it sits on our mantle now, very close to one of the chair that is also covered in that print. And we've had to put a big sign to sort of so that people will automatically realize that yours is an adjusted version of the same piece, and
Yes.
people are loving that and very very interested in the work and you as a result. We are in a time, of, I don't know, we're finding ourselves in a place between being scared because of a coronavirus and, experiencing what I called this intense jolt of equality training that's going on in this country, with so many different aspects being brought back into the fore. Pension, pride, all of that is getting the exposure it deserves. How are you thinking, working in a time period like this where your work is disruptive, right? And this is a disruptive moment in all of our lives, I think. How are you coping through the virus, but also how is it coming out in your work, if it is?
It definitely is. The whole quarantine and shelter in place, I'm working on a tapestry that is essentially a snapshot allegory of the times that we're living in. And I was even coincidentally able to incorporate the Black Lives Matter message into the piece. It's very much a work in progress. It's the virus. It's basically addressing the position of the artist during the virus and changing times in general. And because of the utter lack of distraction, because I'm forced to stay home, I'm spending a lot more time on it, and it's taking forever, but I'm very happy with the results of it. And it's nice to be able to sort of reflect on the times we find ourselves in, and also sort of find solace in the work while doing so by really concentrating on, a little square inch of fabric that will take an entire day to complete. It's rewarding and meditative. And a few years ago, I accepted a commission for a tapestry for a store on Madison Avenue in New York City. And I found that I really loved scaling up the materials, scaling up the gestures of the needlework, and the hoop is gigantic, and it's fun to work that way. The more I stitch, the more complex the imagery becomes. So when you're working on a small toile repeat, it can get really crazy where the gestures are literally one stitch over and over and over. And when you're doing that with tapestry, it may be one stitch, but the stitch is much larger, and it has more impact usually. And it's just a fun way of working, like just to switch things up. I've been going back and forth between regular toile and then these reproduction wool tapestries.
So tell us a little bit, dream job or dream project coming up.
I think my dream job, though, and it's something I've been thinking about for years, and I'm going to have to make time to do it. Like, I want to do public art projects, large scale public art projects. So I'm thinking, like, somehow figuring out a way to do punch needle as embroidery on massive toile canvases might be a viable solution, because just embroidering on a large scale, it's not viable, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, that would be really interesting. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. We can't wait to see what's next.
Yes, thank you.
We hope to have you back at Woodlawn and Pope Leahy House sometime soon.
Oh my God, it's just time.
We look forward to that, and look forward to seeing what else you accomplish at that point as well. So lots of things we want to, and good luck with the prize. So we'll
Oh
let
yeah,
you.
thanks. I'm looking forward to that.